Are you burned out? Have you been burned out before? Have you found the advice that experts give very frustrating and ineffective? This is the first part in a three-part series about how to prevent burnout beyond the basics. I hope it's helpful for you. All right, welcome, Hopeful Tribe. Let's start out with a definition of burnout, just in case people aren't familiar with it. What is burnout? Coined by the psychologist Herbert Freudenberger in the 1970s, burnout describes a severe stress condition that leads to severe physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. Much worse than ordinary fatigue, burnout makes it challenging for people to cope with stress and handle day-to-day responsibilities. People experiencing burnout often feel like they have nothing left to give and may dread getting out of bed each morning. They may even adopt a pessimistic outlook towards life and feel hopeless. Burnout doesn't go away on its own, and if left untreated, it can lead to serious physical and psychological illnesses like depression, heart disease, and diabetes. Here are some common signs of burnout, which include exhaustion, isolation, escape fantasies, irritability, and frequent illness. And here are the basics of what the experts say can prevent burnout. Exercise, eat a balanced diet, practice good sleep habits, ask for help. Oh, these are all very scientifically proven things to help people not get burnt out. However, what they don't tell you is how you're supposed to do all that while you're burnt out. You're already exhausted. There's no way you're going to do that. Can you tell me the last time you were exhausted that you decided to go for a run? So that's why I made this video. This is part one of a three-part series of how to prevent burnout beyond the basics. This is very important, advanced information for your well-being. So please subscribe right now if you haven't already, and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss parts 2 and 3. First of all, the system was set up so that you'd burn out. Workaholism, compulsive behavior causes you to work more, which makes you have to pay more taxes, which is good for the GDP and all of that stuff. This helps the system keep running. But it doesn't care that it's burning you out. You are expendable. We are but widgets to the system. So if we don't take care of ourselves, no one's going to do it. If we're running like hamsters on a wheel, trying to keep up and work hard, then we're going to have a hard time thinking critically about the situation we're in. Number 2, leave the church of hard work and suffering. They don't need your money either, okay? Just walk out. Don't even look behind to see if you left your wallet on the pew. Just get out. Hard work is not a virtue, and neither is suffering. And let me tell you how we all got so confused. If you're like me, your parents were already bona fide devotees of the Church of Hard Work and Suffering. My mom grew up really poor in the Philippines, and her mom worked very hard and suffered so that she could put 6 of her children through medical school and then send each one here. And I grew up with that story. I believed in the whole American dream story, which honestly back in the 50s and 60s was a thing, was way easier to accomplish. But anyway, that's another video. I grew up believing that hard work and suffering were good and just a normal part of life. And then I got out into the world, and the larger culture completely reinforced my beliefs. I got A's because I worked so hard. I got praise because I worked so hard while raising children. It was very frustrating because I worked mostly in nonprofits, and they would often give lip service to self-care and boundaries, and yet give you unreasonable amounts of work to accomplish. It was very frustrating. Also, what I saw was that the people who seemed to work hardest and suffer the most were the ones who tended to get promoted. And you probably think, oh, wait, they got promoted, so they got more money. Yes, they got more money, a little bit more money, maybe a bump, of 10,000 or more a year, but their quality of life also went down. And to me, there's no amount of money that's worth that. If your hard work is preventing you from being healthy, it's not worth it. It's really not. We need you here. Number 3, create some shop rules or negotiate some. All right, shop rules are just rules that people who are in unions have to follow, right? So when I started being self-employed again, I created some shop rules for myself so that I wouldn't make myself work beyond what was healthy. It's really an easy trap to fall into when you're self-employed, especially if you're really excited and passionate about your new business. You can just work yourself into the ground, and then consistency, that's not going to be possible because you worked so hard for 3 weeks in a row, you can't possibly do anything the fourth week. Or worse yet, you work so hard the first few weeks, you end up getting sick. And so then you're in the hospital and you can't do a thing. If you're self-employed or you're a student, you can just think about the things that are going to help you stay on track with your health, and then post them somewhere conspicuous. I even have a picture of my shop rules on my phone in case I start getting out of line while I'm out. I can refer to the shop rules. And if you're worried that you're not going to follow your shop rules, ask a good friend to be your shop steward. And once a week, check in with you about how you're doing with your shop rules. Okay? So that's for people who are students or self-employed. Now, for those of you who are employed, this is going to be more tricky. In this case, you're going to need to figure out a good approach. Try to figure out a good time to negotiate your shop rules with your employer. I suggest waiting until they need something from you and then saying, I'd be happy to do that. Would you mind doing this for me? Number 2, if you are employed, I suggest you change your mindset and act as if you're self-employed, because here's what's going to happen. You will always be looking out for better opportunities. Always be looking for other opportunities. Always be searching for better opportunities. That way, if a difficult set of circumstances arise at work, you can walk away without any worries. Also, it's good to keep a little nest egg. Okay, here's your question of the day. Which of these advanced burnout prevention techniques will be hardest for you? And remember, this is the first part in the 3-part series on how to prevent burnout beyond the basics. So please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss parts 2 and 3. All right? Welcome home, Hopeful Tribe. Are you burned out? Have you been burned out before and want to try to avoid it? This video is for you. In part 1 of how to avoid burnout beyond the basics, we talked about a few ways that you can start to pull out of or prevent burnout should you feel yourself going there. Remember the basics of burnout prevention? Exercise, eat a well-balanced diet, practice good sleep habits, ask for help. All right, that's great. I mean, you can watch any number of videos on YouTube that will tell you the same things in different forms. And they're right. So those are good prevention techniques. You can find tons of books and videos telling you all the same thing. To eat right, to ask for help, to delegate, to blah, 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 blah. What they never do tell you is how. HOW. Do you do all of that? In fact, take a minute and think. Do you know anyone who does all of those things consistently? Kind of rough. You know what that tells me? This is counterculture behavior. This is stuff that's so rare because the people who talk about it are completely immersed in this culture and they can't think of anything more original to say because they're stuck at the Church of Hard Work and Suffering. How are we supposed to fight the culture that we're immersed in? It's like telling a drowning person that all they need to do is breathe deeply. All that's going to get them is lungs full of water. So, in my opinion, when you're burned out or even just a little bit extra crispy, what you need to do before anything is to figure out how to reset your mind, body, and spirit. And that's going to require some time away from your regular burnout causing life. Okay? A guy that was way smarter than me used to say, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Yeah, that's true stuff. Let me say it again. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. That is why when we're dealing with burnout or we're headed towards it, we need to take a big, giant step back and take a reset retreat. That's what I call it, where you remove yourself from your usual busy routine and just completely relax. Now, I can hear all of your objections. You're telling me, I can't, because my kids, because my job, because I have too many responsibilities. I hear you. But before we talk about your objections, first, let's take a little time out for a story. It's story time at Hopeful Tribe. If you're sleepy, just pull up a comfortable chair and lean back because it's time for story time. Once upon a time, I was a single mom with many children. And I was living in the most expensive city in the United States of America. I was working 60 hours a week with people with severe mental health and substance use issues in the city. Actually, most of the time on the streets. And then when I wasn't home or working on the streets, I was finishing graduate school. So while I was working and going to school and raising all of those children, the youngest of whom was on the spectrum and very high need, by the way, I still managed to extricate myself from all of that once a quarter and take a reset retreat. It was essential to my success. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to go back and do all of that and love all those babies. The end. Back to your objections. Objective number 1, I don't have time. You really feel like you don't have time. But what I'm here to say is all you have is time. Besides your mind, body, and spirit, all you own is your time. That's all you have. You can do whatever you want with your time. And when you get burned out, or even just a little extra crispy, you tend to believe that you don't have time to take a break. But this is disordered thinking, which is even more reason for you to take a break. All right? You do have time. You can find time. Number 2, I don't have money. You don't need to have money to take a break. You might have to do some planning to take it, but you don't actually need money. There are ways around that. I, for instance, have a friend who has a vacation place. And if I ask them what weekend they won't be using it, I'm sure they'd be happy to let me borrow it. In which case, all I would have to worry about as far as money goes is gas money. Now, since I'm self-employed, I also have to make sure that my expenses will be covered in spite of my taking some time off. And if you don't have friends who have guest homes or even a spare bedroom somewhere, figure out how to create extra incomes to cover those expenses. Speaking of reset retreats, I have one planned for when I get 100 subscribers. Right now, I have 77. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe now. And if you've already subscribed, could you please share this video with a friend so that maybe they'll subscribe? Because I'm so close, y'all, and I could use a little reset retreat myself. Objection number 3. My kids, my partner, my coworkers, my colleagues, my church, my whatever, they need me. Yes, they probably do. And we're going to deal with that in another video. However, right now, you really need a reset retreat. And that is because they need you. They need you to be well. They need you to be thinking clearly. They need your mood to be stable. They need you to have a good connection with your higher power. They need you. So you need to figure out how you're going to fit in a reset retreat to your schedule. Any more objections? If you do have more, please put them in the comments below and I will make sure to go through each and every comment and answer any objections that you might have that I didn't mention here. Also, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'm only 33 subscribers away from my next reset retreat, so please help a girl out. Also, if you subscribe and turn on the notifications, you will not miss part 3. But don't even start part 3 until you've taken your reset retreat. I will know. Now go figure it out. Figure out how you're going to extract yourself from all your busyness. All right, welcome home, Hopeful Tribe. Are you burned out? Have you been burned out before and don't want to go there again? This video is for you. This is the third video in a 3-part series called How to Avoid Burnout Beyond the Basics. In the very first part, we talk about what burnout is and how to avoid it and why the basic advice that's given doesn't usually work. Then in part 2, we talked about the importance of taking a reset retreat. And I also answered all of your objections to taking one. For those of you who have seen parts 1 and 2, let's go. So first, a quick review of the basics of burnout prevention. Number 1, exercise. Number 2, eat well. Number 3, get some sleep. Number 4, ask for help. These are all good ways to prevent burnout. However, they're not likely to work. So stay tuned. The part 2 basic message was to take a reset retreat. And it really doesn't matter if you don't have money, time, or everybody needs you. You still need to take it. Make your health your first priority. Before making your next to-do list, figure out how you're going to fit in all those healthy habits that are going to prevent your next burnout. Here's a template for creating a structure that will work for your needs. I use this very template, and you may need to alter the times on the left. I'm a very early riser, but I think that you get the idea. So you fill in here, oh, I'm going to pray and meditate, and then maybe here, have breakfast. I don't know. But before you fill in any of your responsibilities to other people, you need to fill in the things you need to do for yourself. I'll put a link to the template in the description box. It's yours for free, okay? Again, if you plan to include exercise, healthy eating, sleeping, you actually need to figure out how you're going to fit all those things into your life. And I highly recommend that you create a template, or you use the template that I'm going to put in the description box, and put in all of the healthy habits before you put anything else in. Also, if you can, add in a little buffer time in your schedule so that you're not rushing from one activity to the next. Rushing is not compatible with healthy living. Also, as you're learning how to make your health your first priority, be patient with yourself, because it's going to be a process. You're not going to change overnight. This is going to take time. Think of yourself as your great life's project that you will never skip a day working on. This is your life's work, is improving your health, your well-being, yada, yada. You know what I mean? So, for instance, if one night you only sleep 3 hours, don't stress about it. Just say, oh, that didn't feel good. I didn't sleep very much, but 5 days this week I slept more than 7 hours. So good for me. If you've watched up to this point, you're probably getting something out of it. So could you please like, share, or subscribe? I'd really appreciate it. There are a lot of people out there just overworking every day, and we need to get people out of the church of hard work and suffering. Make your happiness your second priority. So your first priority is your health, your second priority is your happiness. Sounds like a recipe for a pretty good life to me. Do you remember your third objection to taking a reset retreat? It was my coworker, my friends, my family, they need me. Yes, they do. And I said then, and I'll tell you now, that is why you need to prioritize your happiness. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to be there for them when they need you. At least not in the same way, not in a really good way. And I want you to be there for people in your life in the best possible way. And I am telling you from the bottom of my heart, this works. If you prioritize your health and happiness, the people in your life will reap the benefits. They will have such a better time when they're hanging out with you. And you get the biggest gift, which is an amazing life that you get to share with the world. Your partner, your kids, your coworkers, whomever is needing you is going to adjust if you just reset your priorities. Now, they may not change their behaviors. They may actually just find other people who are willing to serve them nonstop, and that's okay. What you're responsible for is your behavior and your health and happiness. The other thing that could happen with your loved ones or coworkers is that they could figure out how to do more things for themselves. And that's a really good thing. Also, remember that structure chart that I brought out? Make sure to include some things that make you happy on there so that on a regular basis, you're getting the fuel you need to stay happy. So for me, that's things like spending time in nature, spending time with friends, um, taking time to just chill and relax, watch a movie. I actually put those fun things on my structure too, because otherwise I find I just naturally fill up those blanks with work. Oh, I hear you. What do you do if there's not enough room for work? Hmm. Then you have a decision to make, which is part of why I'm self employed, because I really couldn't fit all of my self care plus a full time job into my available 24 hours a day. Ultimately, you have to decide if you're going to prioritize yourself or your job or your career or whatever. You need to ask yourself, do you want to prioritize your health and happiness or your work life? If you decide you want to prioritize your health and happiness, but you're not independently wealthy yet, and so you can't leave this job that's getting in the way of your health and happiness, then go ahead and create a bridge plan. You don't have to have the perfect setup from day one to make an improvement. You could just figure out a way to do some of the things that make you healthy and happy. So let's say you have a set work schedule, it's 40 hours or 60 hours, whatever, and you go ahead and fill that in and then fit as much of the healthy stuff in around the edges of that as you can. And little by little, maybe you set goals. Uh, by the end of this year, I want this much more time for myself, and figure out how you're going to get there. You know, maybe you start doing some side gigs so that you have some savings in the bank. Maybe you let go of some expenses that aren't really necessary so that you don't have to work as many hours. You get the idea. I know you can do this, hopeful tribe. Also, affirm to yourself every morning that you deserve to be healthy and happy. I swear, over time, it won't feel so awkward or crazy. Just affirm to yourself in the mirror every morning, I deserve to be healthy and happy. And I intend to be healthy and happy. And over time, you're going to believe this stuff. And over time, you will be healthier and happier. I swear it works. So, what do you think gets most in your way when it comes to self-care? What are the biggest barriers to your caring for yourself? Please mention in the comments below what your biggest barriers are. I think you'll find that you're not alone. Welcome home, Hopeful Tribe. I've set up a Patreon page. If you haven't been there before, check it out. Please support our channel. We really want to be creating more community and sharing more coping skills. So please join us on Patreon. And also remember to like, share, and subscribe. And turn on those notification bells. Sometimes I forget that step. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button. Make sure you turn on the notifications so you don't miss another video. If you've already subscribed, please share this video to somebody who needs to leave the Church of Hard Work and Suffering. Okay? See you next time. Welcome home, Hopeful Tribe.